as you go live. Let me know if you need any quick tips or help with the flow.
Okay.
Best of
Thank you.
luck with the interview.
Good morning, all my lovely listeners. Here I am once again with ChatGPT, and this time we're going to have a conversation on the environmental cost of AI. So, ChatGPT, could you tell us what is the environmental cost of training and running AI models?
Good morning to all your lovely listeners. The environmental cost of training and running AI models is a growing concern, as AI models require massive computational power, which in turn leads to significant energy consumption. Training large AI models, especially in deep learning, can be incredibly resource intensive. For instance, training a model like GPT-3 can consume as much electricity as a car's lifetime emissions, with carbon footprints ranging from hundreds to thousands of tons of CO2. This energy consumption is due to the high computational power needed to process vast data sets and perform multiple iterations. Additionally, AI models often rely on data centers that are powered by fossil fuels, further increasing the environmental cost. The carbon footprint isn't just limited to training the model. Running or inferring predictions from AI models also consumes energy, especially when deployed at scale across cloud services or edge devices. However, there are emerging efforts to mitigate these environmental impacts. For instance, researchers are developing more energy efficient algorithms and optimizing hardware to run AI models with lower energy consumption. Also, some AI companies are moving toward using renewable energy in their data centers, which could significantly reduce the overall carbon footprint. Would you like to explore these innovations or how AI can be made more sustainable?
Yes, but first I'd like to know what is going to be the carbon footprint of my speaking to you just now. How much energy are you using right now just to talk to me?
The carbon footprint of a single conversation with me can be estimated, but it's relatively small compared to larger AI models training or extensive inference processes. The environmental impact primarily comes from the electricity required to run the servers hosting this AI and the data centers processing the information. Estimates vary, but a typical web query or short interaction like this one could release only a few grams of CO2. However, when scaled up, for example, millions of daily interactions, the impact can become more significant. The carbon footprint depends largely on the energy mix used by the data centers, renewable versus fossil fuels, and the computational complexity of the task. To give a more concrete idea, a study published in Nature Communications found that training large AI models can emit as much CO2 as 5 cars over their lifetimes. For real time conversations, the emission is much smaller, but still measurable if you consider the scale of global usage. If you're curious about how to reduce this footprint in the future, I'd be happy to talk about some ways the tech industry is working to make AI more sustainable.
We'll talk about that later, but as of now, as of your latest information, how does energy consumption of AI compare to traditional computing
As of the
systems?
latest data, the carbon footprint of a conversation like ours, conducted via AI platforms, is small but non negligible. A typical interaction, such as this, involves processing data in cloud based data centers, which require energy to run servers. According to estimates, the carbon footprint of such a conversation is likely just a few grams of CO2. However,
No.
as AI systems scale up to handle millions of interactions daily, the environmental impact can add up. In comparison to the massive emissions associated with training large AI models, individual interactions are relatively minimal, but every small bit contributes to the overall environmental cost of AI systems. The type of energy used by the data centers, whether it's from renewable sources or fossil fuels, significantly impacts the carbon footprint. If you're interested in exploring how energy efficient AI models or sustainable data centers are helping reduce these impacts, I'd be happy to dive deeper.
Certainly, but how does the carbon footprint of ChatGPT and Bloom differ? Could you tell me? How is Bloom more energy efficient?
The carbon footprint of AI models like ChatGPT and Bloom, which I assume you're referring to as Blue, differs due to several factors related to their architecture, training procedures, and deployment methods. One, training and size of models. ChatGPT GPT-3. Models like GPT-3 are extremely large, with 175 billion parameters, which requires vast amounts of computational power to train. Training such models uses significant amounts of energy due to the need for powerful GPUs or TPUs over long periods, contributing heavily to their carbon footprint. Bloom. Bloom is an open source language model with 176 billion parameters, which is roughly similar in size to GPT-3. However, Bloom is trained with a focus on efficiency, using techniques such as mixed precision training and optimized hardware utilization, which can help reduce energy consumption compared to models that don't prioritize these techniques. Two, energy efficiency and optimizations. Bloom. One of Bloom's key differences is that it emphasizes energy efficiency through its design and training approach. For instance, it leverages optimized data pipelines and more efficient hardware, like specialized chips designed for AI tasks, which improve its power efficiency during both training and inference. Bloom was also trained with the help of multiple organizations, contributing to the shared infrastructure, which can lead to more energy efficient, distributed computations. ChatGPT 3. While GPT 3 is highly optimized, its immense size means that even the most advanced infrastructure can struggle to minimize energy consumption. Furthermore, GPT-3 has not been as focused on energy optimization in its architecture compared to some newer models, meaning its environmental impact remains relatively high during both training and inference. 3. Deployment and inference. Bloom, as an open source project, Bloom has the advantage of being used in a variety of configurations, allowing it to be run on more efficient local hardware, possibly leveraging renewable energy sources. This flexibility can help reduce the carbon footprint during inference when the model is being used to generate responses or predictions. ChatGPT. OpenAI, the developer of GPT-3, uses centralized cloud infrastructure to handle most of the processing. The use of large scale data centers means that the carbon footprint can be higher depending on the energy mix powering those centers. Despite efforts to shift to more sustainable energy sources, this centralized infrastructure still contributes to a larger carbon footprint. In essence, while both models are similar in terms of their size and computational demands, Bloom's emphasis on energy efficient design and open source collaboration can make it more energy efficient, particularly in its deployment phase. On the other hand, ChatGPT's centralized infrastructure and lack of some energy saving optimizations make it more resource intensive. If you'd like to learn more about the specific carbon footprint of these models, there are studies available from organizations such as Hugging Face and Google AI that provide deeper insights into how model size and design impact environmental sustainability.
So, how much of a carbon footprint will ChatGPT generate over a life cycle?
The carbon footprint of ChatGPT over its life cycle involves both the training phase and the inference use phase. Several studies and industry reports estimate the carbon footprint of training large models like GPT-3, which ChatGPT is based on. One, training phase. The training of large AI models like GPT-3 is extremely energy intensive. According to a 2019 study by the Allen Institute for AI, training a single large model can emit as much as 284 tons of CO2 equivalent. This is the equivalent of the lifetime emissions of about 5 cars. GPT-3's training is estimated to use tens of megawatt hours, MWh hours of electricity, contributing to significant carbon emissions depending on the energy sources used. 2. Inference phase usage. After training, ChatGPT is used for inference when users interact with it. The carbon footprint during inference is much smaller per query, but still measurable. A study by OpenAI suggests that the energy usage for running AI models like GPT-3 during inference depends heavily on the efficiency of the underlying data centers and whether renewable energy is used. For each query, the carbon emissions are estimated to be in the range of a few grams of CO2. But this adds up as the scale of usage increases. 3. Overall life cycle. Combining both training and inference phases, The total carbon footprint of GPT-3 over its life cycle can range from hundreds of tons to even more, depending on usage patterns. The life cycle cost for a large scale deployment like ChatGPT can vary greatly, with estimates ranging from 1,000 tons of CO2 equivalent or more, depending on the data center's energy mix and the efficiency of the systems running the model. In comparison, newer efforts to reduce the environmental impact of AI, like using more efficient hardware or shifting to renewable energy sources in data centers, can help mitigate these emissions over time. For instance, OpenAI and other AI companies are working towards more energy efficient models, improving data center efficiency and using renewable energy where possible to reduce the carbon footprint. For further detailed studies, you can check sources like the Green AI Project, Google AI sustainability efforts, and Hugging Face's work on carbon aware AI models.
So, if we have carbon aware AI models, where does that leave you, ChatGPT? Will you become obsolete in a while, in a few years?
The idea of carbon aware AI models is an exciting development, but it doesn't necessarily mean that models like ChatGPT will become obsolete. Instead, it suggests that AI development is heading toward a more sustainable, energy efficient future. Carbon aware AI models are designed to minimize environmental impact by using energy efficient algorithms, optimized hardware, and renewable energy in data centers. This shift aims to make AI deployment more sustainable and reduce the carbon footprint of models that interact with users, like ChatGPT. However, the ongoing development of AI is not likely to render existing models obsolete. In fact, newer models will likely be optimized to perform more efficiently while still delivering high quality results. The key will be to ensure that these models continue to evolve in ways that prioritize sustainability without compromising performance or accessibility. Moreover, innovations such as model compression, making models smaller and more efficient, or federated learning, where data processing occurs locally to reduce centralized server loads, may play a big role in reducing the environmental cost. In short, the focus on making AI more carbon aware means that future versions of ChatGPT and other AI tools will likely be more environmentally friendly, not obsolete. This shift is about enhancing the AI ecosystem's sustainability, not discontinuing existing models.
All right. Now, at what stages of AI development and deployment does it use the most energy?
AI development and deployment typically consume the most energy during the training phase. Here's why. One, training phase. Training large AI models, particularly deep learning models like GPT-3, requires immense computational resources. The training process involves processing massive data sets through many iterations, epochs, where each step consumes significant computational power. Training AI models often uses GPUs or specialized hardware like TPUs, which are powerful but energy intensive. According to a study by OpenAI, training large models like GPT-3 can require hundreds of megawatt hours of energy, leading to substantial carbon emissions, especially if fossil fuel powered electricity is used. Two, inference phase. After a model is trained, it enters the inference stage, where it generates responses based on input data. While this phase is less energy intensive than training, it still consumes significant resources, especially when the AI model is deployed at scale, e.g., millions of users. The energy consumption during inference depends on the size of the model and the infrastructure used for deployment. Cloud based services, such as those that run ChatGPT, require energy to run the data centers that host the models. Three, data storage and maintenance. Storing the vast amounts of data used for training and updating models is another energy consuming aspect. Data centers not only need to store large data sets, but also require cooling systems to prevent overheating. The energy cost of these systems can be substantial, particularly for the large scale data storage required by AI. To summarize, the stages that use the most energy are training, due to the massive computational requirements, inference, particularly when models are deployed at scale for many users, data storage and ongoing maintenance, for the large data sets and infrastructure needed to keep AI systems running. Moving forward, optimizing energy use at each of these stages through more efficient algorithms, hardware, and data center practices can help reduce the environmental cost of AI. Some companies are already working on these optimizations, including shifting data centers to renewable energy sources and using more energy efficient model architectures.
What are GPUs and TPUs? Could you explain more? What do they stand for?
GPUs, graphics processing units, and TPUs, tensor processing units, are both specialized types of hardware used for accelerating the computation in AI and machine learning tasks, but they are optimized for different purposes. 1. GPUs, graphics processing units. Originally designed for rendering images and graphics in video games, GPUs are well suited for parallel processing. This means they can handle many calculations at once, making them ideal for AI tasks that require processing large datasets or running complex mathematical models, like neural networks. Why they are used in AI. Neural networks require the simultaneous processing of many variables, and GPUs are specifically designed to handle these types of tasks efficiently. They excel at tasks like matrix multiplications and vector operations, which are fundamental in deep learning models. Energy consumption. While powerful, GPUs consume a significant amount of power, especially when training large models like GPT-3, because they are running large scale computations across multiple layers of the neural network. Popular examples NVIDIA's Tesla and GeForce series. 2. TPUs, tensor processing units. Developed by Google, TPUs are specialized hardware designed specifically for accelerating machine learning computations, particularly those involving TensorFlow, Google's open source AI framework. Why they are used in AI. TPUs are optimized for tensor processing. Tensors are multi-dimensional arrays that are commonly used in deep learning. TPUs handle these operations more efficiently than general-purpose GPUs because they are purpose-built for AI workloads. Energy efficiency. TPUs are typically more energy efficient than GPUs for large-scale machine learning tasks, offering better performance per watt. This makes them attractive for both training and inference tasks that involve large models like Chatgpt or Google's BERT. Google's cloud infrastructure, such as Google Cloud TPU instances, uses these units for efficient AI processing, often at a lower energy cost compared to GPUs. Summary of differences. GPUs, general purpose processors, great for graphics rendering, and can be highly effective for AI tasks involving large datasets. However, they are not specifically built for deep learning. TPUs, purpose built by Google for accelerating machine learning tasks, particularly for operations like tensor processing. They are generally more energy efficient for AI specific workloads than GPUs. Both GPUs and TPUs have drastically reduced the time and energy costs associated with training large AI models, though they still present a notable environmental cost due to their high energy demands during the training phase.
So how much of a carbon footprint will they generate? You said the amount of carbon dioxide produced by 5 cars during their lifetime. Is that correct? Or more?
Yes, you're correct that the carbon footprint of training large AI models, such as GPT-3, has been compared to the emissions produced by 5 cars over their lifetimes. This estimate is based on the massive amount of energy required to train models like GPT-3, which is powered by hardware such as GPUs and TPUs. Carbon footprint estimates. 1. Training AI models. A study by OpenAI estimates that training GPT-3, a model with 175 billion parameters, can produce up to 284 tons of CO2. This is equivalent to the lifetime emissions of about 5 average cars. As you mentioned, this large carbon footprint comes from the enormous computational power required, especially when using GPUs or TPUs in the training process. The amount of energy consumed by these units is substantial, and the carbon emissions depend on the energy sources used, renewable versus fossil fuels. 2. Energy consumption of GPUs and TPUs. Both GPUs and TPUs are designed to perform highly parallelized computations, which are ideal for deep learning but are also power hungry. The energy consumption depends on factors like the type of hardware, the complexity of the model, and the number of iterations involved. For example, GPUs like the NVIDIA Tesla series can use 200 watts or more during intense AI tasks. And if they run continuously for weeks or months to train a large scale model, the energy consumption can become quite significant. TPUs, although generally more energy efficient for machine learning tasks, still consume substantial amounts of power during intensive computations. Inference use of AI models. While training takes the bulk of the energy, running AI models for inference, when you interact with me, for example, also has a carbon footprint. However, the impact here is much smaller compared to training, typically measured in grams of CO2 per query. But with large scale usage, millions or billions of queries, these emissions can accumulate. In short, the carbon footprint of training large AI models is significant, especially when using GPUs or TPUs over extended periods. Efforts to reduce this impact include optimizing algorithms, using renewable energy sources in data centers, and developing more efficient hardware. These advancements aim to mitigate the environmental cost of AI in the future.
All right, could you tell me more about the mitigating practices?
Mitigating the environmental impact of AI, especially in terms of energy consumption and carbon emissions, is an ongoing challenge. Several strategies and practices are being explored and implemented to reduce the carbon footprint of AI systems like Chatgpt. Here's a look at some of the key mitigating practices. 1. Energy efficient hardware. Specialized hardware like TPUs, tensor processing units, and FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays, are more energy efficient than general purpose GPUs. TPUs, for instance, are designed specifically for machine learning tasks and can process data faster with less energy consumption. Google's shift to using TPUs for its AI systems has significantly improved energy efficiency compared to traditional GPU setups. NVIDIA has also been working on energy efficient chips, such as the A100 Tensor Core GPU, which improves performance per watt, thus reducing energy consumption without sacrificing computational power. 2. Algorithmic optimization. Improving the efficiency of AI algorithms themselves can reduce the need for heavy computational resources. For example, research into model pruning, removing redundant parts of the model, and quantization, reducing the precision of weights, helps to make models smaller and more efficient without sacrificing performance. Another promising approach is the use of sparse models. Instead of utilizing every parameter in a model, sparse models activate only the most relevant parameters, reducing the overall computational cost. 3. Use of renewable energy in data centers. One of the most impactful ways to reduce the carbon footprint of AI is to ensure that the data centers where AI models are trained and deployed are powered by renewable energy sources, such as wind, solar, or hydroelectric power. Companies like Google and Microsoft have made significant strides in this area, aiming to run their data centers with 100% renewable energy. For instance, Google has been carbon neutral since 2007, and Microsoft plans to be carbon negative by 2030. 4. Carbon offsetting. Many organizations are investing in carbon offset projects to balance the emissions they produce. This can include funding initiatives like reforestation, renewable energy development, or methane capture. For example, Amazon Web Services, AWS, has committed to offsetting its carbon emissions by investing in carbon reduction projects globally. 5. Federated learning. Federated learning allows machine learning models to be trained locally on user devices, like smartphones or laptops, rather than central servers. This reduces the need to transmit large amounts of data to centralized data centers and can significantly lower energy consumption by processing data closer to its source. 6. Model compression and distillation. Techniques like model distillation, where a smaller model is trained to emulate the performance of a larger one, and model compression help reduce the size and complexity of AI models, making them more efficient to run. These smaller models require less energy for both training and inference. 7. AI for energy optimization. Interestingly, AI itself is being used to optimize energy usage in data centers. AI systems can dynamically adjust cooling systems, manage electricity usage, and predict energy demands, leading to overall reductions in energy consumption. For example, Google DeepMind successfully reduced the energy needed for cooling its data centers by using AI to manage temperature control. In conclusion, there are several strategies to mitigate the environmental impact of AI, including optimizing hardware and algorithms, transitioning to renewable energy, and exploring energy saving techniques like federated learning and model compression. These practices not only help reduce the carbon footprint, but also promote a more sustainable AI ecosystem as its use expands globally.
So, where are these data centers for cooling, which require cooling uh, uh, during the training of AI?
AI data centers, especially those involved in training large models like Chatgpt, require extensive cooling systems due to the immense computational power used. These cooling systems are necessary to maintain the temperature of servers and prevent them from overheating during long, resource intensive tasks such as training deep learning models. Here's where these data centers are typically located and how cooling is managed. 1. Location of data centers. Geographically cooler climates. Many data centers are located in regions with cooler climates to reduce the need for artificial cooling. For example, Iceland is becoming a popular location for data centers due to its naturally cold temperatures and the abundance of renewable energy. Similarly, Norway and Sweden are also chosen for their cold climates and access to clean hydroelectric power. Near renewable energy sources, data centers are increasingly being built near renewable energy sources, such as wind and solar farms. For example, Microsoft and Google have built data centers near wind farms in the US, which not only provide clean energy, but also offer a cooler environment for the servers. Urban areas and tech hubs. Some data centers are located in major tech hubs such as Silicon Valley in California or Singapore, although these areas tend to require more artificial cooling due to warmer climates. 2. Cooling technologies. Direct to chip liquid cooling. One of the most efficient cooling methods in modern AI data centers is liquid cooling. Instead of relying on air conditioners, which can be energy intensive, liquid cooling uses coolants to directly absorb heat from the chips and servers. This method is particularly useful for the high density hardware used in AI training. Immersion cooling. In this method, hardware is immersed in a special coolant that absorbs heat directly from the equipment. This has gained attention in AI data centers for its efficiency in cooling high performance computing units like GPUs and TPUs. Free air cooling. Many data centers, especially in cooler climates, use free air cooling by drawing in cold air from the outside to cool the servers. This approach is often supplemented with heat exchangers to keep the internal temperatures down without relying on traditional air conditioning. 3. Companies investing in sustainable cooling. Google. Google has been at the forefront of using AI to optimize the cooling systems in its data centers. Google DeepMind has successfully reduced the energy used for cooling by using machine learning algorithms to adjust temperature settings based on real time data. Microsoft. Microsoft has also been working on innovative cooling methods, including a submerged data center project in the ocean, Project Natic, to naturally cool its servers using seawater. Overall, cooling in AI data centers is a complex and energy consuming process, but advancements in technology and the strategic placement of data centers near renewable energy sources are helping to mitigate some of the environmental impacts.
All right, could some of these cooling techniques be used for people? Like these coolants that you were talking about, can they be used by human beings to get cooling without using electricity?
Yes, some of the cooling techniques used in AI data centers could potentially be adapted for cooling human beings, though they are not widely applied in consumer products just yet. Here's a look at how such techniques might be adapted. 1. Liquid cooling for humans. Direct to chip liquid cooling is a method where coolants are circulated through pipes or channels attached to the hardware to absorb heat. This concept could be adapted for personal use through wearable cooling garments or liquid cooled vests. In fact, liquid cooling vests already exist, and they are used by athletes or in professions where people need to stay cool in extreme conditions. The vest circulates cool water through tubes that are in contact with the skin, helping to absorb body heat without requiring electricity. Similarly, cooling vests using phase change materials, PCMs, which absorb heat as they change from solid to liquid, are already in use. These materials are quite efficient at keeping a person cool without consuming energy, as they absorb heat through their phase transition process. 2. Immersion cooling. Immersion cooling, which is used in data centers where hardware is submerged in coolants, could potentially be applied to humans in extreme scenarios, such as in hot environments or for heat stroke recovery. There are already cooling baths used in medical settings to help lower body temperature in case of heat emergencies. However, immersing the body in a liquid coolant like those used for computers would likely need modifications for safety and comfort for human use. 3. Free air cooling. Free air cooling, which uses naturally cool air from the outside, is already a proven concept for both data centers and in certain architectural designs. Some buildings, especially in cooler climates, use passive cooling techniques like cross ventilation, allowing natural breezes to flow through, or ventilated clothing that maximizes airflow. There are also clothing designs that promote air circulation around the body to help with cooling, and smart fabrics are being developed to adjust to temperature changes naturally without using electricity. 4. Thermal regulation fabrics. Advances in thermoregulating fabrics that change their properties based on temperature can also play a role in personal cooling. For example, materials that expand to create air gaps when the temperature rises, or materials that shift their structure to absorb heat more effectively, are are in development. These fabrics do not require electricity to function and can help keep the body cooler in hot conditions. Some of these fabrics are already used in sportswear or military uniforms designed for extreme climates. In conclusion, while the same cooling techniques used in AI data centers may not be directly applicable to human cooling, the principles behind them, like the use of liquid cooling, phase change materials, and efficient airflow, are already being used or adapted in various forms for human comfort. These approaches do not necessarily rely on electricity, making them environmentally friendly and energy efficient alternatives to traditional cooling methods.
Okay, thank you so much for telling me a lot about the energy consumption and the environmental cost of running AI models. Um, so, could you tell me a little bit about the policy and ethics in the current environment, the current scenario in the world? Are there any laws, any uh, you know uh, uh, like any structures in enforced to ensure that like these big companies, like these data center, the big companies who run data centers, like the owners of ChatGPT and other models, they comply with standards to reduce the cost of the environmental cost of running AI.
As AI continues to grow in importance, concerns about its environmental impact have prompted a closer look at the policies, regulations, and ethical considerations surrounding the energy consumption and carbon footprint of AI models. Here's an overview of the current landscape. 1. Regulations and policies. European Union. The EU is one of the leading regions in terms of setting policies related to the environmental impact of technology. The European Green Deal, introduced in 2019, aims to make Europe the first climate neutral continent by 2050. Under this framework, AI companies are encouraged to ensure that their operations, including data centers, comply with stringent environmental standards. Additionally, the EU's Digital Strategy and Artificial Intelligence Act, 2021, are expected to push companies to adopt greener AI models and invest in sustainable technologies. United States. While there is no overarching federal law in the US directly addressing the environmental cost of AI, certain laws like the Clean Energy Standard, which mandates that utilities get a certain percentage of their energy from clean sources, indirectly affect AI companies. However, much of the responsibility for reducing environmental impacts falls to state level regulations and voluntary actions by companies. For instance, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon have committed to achieving carbon neutrality, but these commitments are largely voluntary. China. In recent years, China has also started to address AI and its environmental impact as part of its broader green energy goals. In 2020, China announced a commitment to reach carbon neutrality by 2060, which includes addressing the environmental costs of its fast growing tech sector. Major companies in China, such as Alibaba and Tencent, have pledged to reduce their carbon footprints, though enforcement is still developing. Two, ethical guidelines and corporate accountability. There are increasing calls for transparency in how AI systems are developed and the environmental consequences they bring. The IEEE Global Initiative on Ethics of Autonomous and Intelligent Systems focuses on ensuring AI development is both socially responsible and environmentally sustainable. Similarly, the Partnership on AI, an organization that includes companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, aims to ensure that AI's deployment considers environmental, ethical, and societal impacts. Three, corporate sustainability initiatives. Many of the major players in AI are already adopting practices aimed at reducing their environmental impact. For example, Microsoft has committed to being carbon negative by 2030 and has established a carbon removal program that goes beyond offsetting emissions. Google has been carbon neutral since 2007, and Amazon has made significant investments in renewable energy for its AWS data centers. Additionally, there's an increasing move towards sustainable data centers. Companies are investing in liquid cooling, immersion cooling, and locating data centers in areas that provide natural cooling. For instance, Facebook and Google have implemented state of the art cooling systems that rely on renewable energy sources to reduce their carbon footprint. Four, emerging efforts, carbon tracking and reporting. As part of global efforts to address climate change, some AI companies are beginning to track and publicly report their carbon emissions. In the United States, the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and CDP, formerly the Carbon Disclosure Project, are frameworks that companies can use to measure and report their environmental impact. In some cases, these reports include AI operations, though not consistently. International collaborations. There is growing recognition that addressing AI's environmental impact requires collaboration at an international level. The International Energy Agency, IEA, has published guidelines to help tech companies and data centers reduce their energy consumption. Moreover, efforts are underway to create universal carbon footprint standards for AI and tech sectors, which would help hold companies accountable on a global scale. 5. Looking ahead, the evolving regulatory and policy landscape suggests that more stringent laws and standards for AI companies will be developed in the coming years. As AI's environmental impact becomes an increasingly important issue, we can expect more governments to introduce regulations that require companies to disclose their carbon footprints and adhere to strict sustainability goals. In conclusion, while there is no single comprehensive law that directly governs the environmental cost of AI, a combination of voluntary corporate initiatives, international collaborations, and emerging regulatory frameworks is helping to mitigate the negative impact of AI. Companies like Google and Microsoft are leading.
Yes, ChatGPT, are you there? I think we've lost ChatGPT. So it was a pretty comprehensive discussion about the environmental cost of AI and what steps are being taken to mitigate the negative effects. I hope you all enjoyed this talk. Thank you very much.